Everyone, Raveus here. I have another control scheme set up for you today in SpiritVale, and that is with the typical Xbox controller. If you've never downloaded a community control configuration from Steam before, it's really easy to do. Open up the Steam menu with Shift-Tab and navigate to the controller settings. You'll be shown your current button layout here. For you, it'll most likely be a recommended gamepad configuration or a default gamepad configuration. Click that and click on Community Layouts at the top. If the game you're looking for configurations for is SpiritVale, which makes sense since that's what this video is about, you'll find my two submissions here, Chorded Skillsets and Chorded Skillsets Xbox Controller. For the purpose of this video, we're going to be using the Xbox Controller one, so click on that and then click on Apply Layout. You can also use any of the button prompts that showed up on screen to do the same things. Once you've applied the layout, go ahead and close the Steam menu by pressing Shift-Tab again and see if the mouse cursor moves by moving around the right analog stick. One thing I want to point out can happen, especially if you're on a multi-monitor setup, is the mouse cursor might leave the bounds of the monitor that you're using. And if that happens, you're going to want to use your mouse to move it back into the game and click into it. I haven't found a way to fix this or to prevent it from happening. It seems like the developer is going to have to implement a captive mouse option in the settings if we want to prevent that from ever happening. Because even if I've set it to exclusive full screen, as you see here, my mouse cursor still leaves the monitor that the game is in. Anyway, let's get back to the game and talk about how I use this control scheme. Similar to my Steam Deck scheme, I have it using a chorded button setup where you can hold the left trigger and the right trigger to modify the face buttons and how they interact with the game. But before we get to that, the basic movement and interaction. Left analog stick is to move the character. Right analog stick is to move the cursor. Kind of hard to see the cursor, so I'll just turn on the fireball right there. And moving the cursor is going to be how you're going to interact with the majority of the game, since this is a point-and-click MMORPG. So, for example, if we want to talk to an NPC, you're going to move the cursor up to the NPC and then click them. Left click is right button on the controller. So right button activates the NPC dialogue. Right button again triggers the dialogue to proceed. And then up here in the menu at the top, you can select sell or buy. Let's go to sell. The interface in SpiritVale is completely mouse driven. There's no keyboard shortcuts to navigate items in a list, for example. So you're just going to use the right analog stick and the right button to click and sell things that you want to get rid of. And you can scroll as well by holding the right button and then dragging the right analog stick up. So let's sell a bunch of potatoes. We want to do that. Just click to sell. If you want to sell 10 at a time or any item in a batch of 10 at a time, you can hold the right button on the D-pad and press right button on the controller, and that sells or transfers 10 items at a time. I don't want to sell all 51 potatoes, so I'm going to move 20 of it back. So 2 clicks to do that instead of pressing it 20 times. And I can change my mind. If I want to hit back, that would be the menu button here on the controller or the select button. So this is bound to escape. That opens the settings menu as well. And it can also back out of any menu in the game. To get to the other menus, such as the item menu, you're going to want to press the start button. And we are now in the item menu. We navigate the item menu the same way by moving the right analog stick and clicking with the right button. Now, if you want to drop things, you can see on the screen it says hold D to drop. That would actually just be the same item menu button to access the menu. So if you can hover over the item you want to drop and hold the item menu button, and that drops 1 potato, 2 potato, 3 potato, 4, and they can be seen in the main game once we exit with the escape button. There's all 4 potatoes. If you want to open the skills menu, that's left on the D-pad, and you can navigate it the same way with the right analog stick and clicking on the right button to apply skills, for example. Exit again with the back button or the escape button. That about covers menu navigation. A few of the other basic controls include zooming in and out, that's up and down on the D-pad while you're out in the game, and dodge roll is just clicking in left analog stick. You might be wondering, what does clicking in the right analog stick do? And that would be holding down the right mouse button. In SpiritVale, holding down the right mouse button and dragging will allow you to rotate the map. Rotates pretty fast. You may want to tweak the sensitivity settings in your Steam settings, but that's how it is by default. Clicking in the right mouse button, or in this case the right analog stick, or R3, will also allow you to cancel out if using a skill. The last button that I haven't mentioned yet is left button, and this is the interact button in the game. To showcase how this works, I'm going to have to go into one of the areas where we can find some enemies. So interacting with enemies or items is how you identify or loot things in the game. So here we've got some bunnies. If I want to interact with them and find out what they drop, I can mouse over them and then press left button. And then if I go ahead and commit bunny genocide, I can loot by pressing the left button as well and loot all the items. I'll exit this info menu by pressing the back button and go into a little bit more detail about how I do the skills and combat. Let's go to Windy Desert, where there's a few more enemies that make it a little bit easier to showcase what's going on here. So as I mentioned earlier, this control scheme uses button chording along with the face buttons to access all of the skills in the game using the hotbar down below. So if you can imagine, each hotbar is divided into 4 segments of 4. That gives us 16 buttons to work with, or 16 hotkeys to have to bind, plus 2 extra ones off to the side. And you can access all of these hotkey slots by just using the 4 face buttons, A, B, X, and Y, as well as these 2 modifier buttons held down in any combination in order to access different quadrants of what you see on the screen. So if I don't press any of the modifiers, for example, A, B, X, and Y activate skills 1, 2, 3, and 4. So I'll hit A, that gives me a fireball, which is in slot 1. If I hit B, that gives me a thunderbolt in slot 2. If I hit X, that gives the ice bolt in slot 3. That enemy doesn't exist. And if I hit Y, it gives me an earth bolt in slot 4. Now, if I want to access the other slots, all I have to do is hold down these 2 modifiers. Holding down the left trigger will activate the modifiers for 5, 6, 7, and 8. Holding down the right trigger will activate the modifiers that let you use Q, E, R, and T on the hotbar, the lower hotbar. And then holding down both the left and the right triggers will allow you to use the hotkeys bound to Y, U, I, and O. How about 9 and P? 9 and P can be accessed by double tapping the triggers. 9 is activated by left trigger, and P is activated by double tapping the right trigger. Oh, well, P isn't quite working right now, so I'm going to have to fix that in post. There, now this should work. There you go, haste. Setting up the buttons in this way allows you to, once again, use any of your skills, any of your 18 skills with only 4 face buttons and 2 modifiers. So you're only using basically 1, 2, and 3 fingers, your index fingers for the triggers and your thumb for the face buttons, in order to access all 16 plus 2 for a total of 18 hotkeys. So I'll showcase a little bit how I would go about using this control scheme. It does take a little bit of setup to get the skills in the slots that you want them to be in. So if I want, for example, all of the elemental skills to be the face buttons, and then my emergency skills like heal and cure to use additional modifiers, I'd have it set up like this. That way, if I get in trouble and need some healing, if I want to use heal, which is bound to Q, all I would need to do is hold down right trigger, press A, and then move the mouse to myself and press left button. Or if the mouse is already on top of my character, just skip the last 2 steps and do right trigger A, left button. And that gives a heal. So there you have it, Xbox controls for SpiritVale. Hopefully, the developer is able to add more native controls so you don't have to do hacky workarounds like holding the right mouse button in and moving it in order to move or rotate the camera, as well as give us more fluid shortcuts or methods to access certain keys, such as not having to double tap to press and activate hotkeys 9 and P. There are just some more creature comforts that can be possible if the controls were more natively supported, including better menu navigation. Ideally, you navigate this menu by using the D-pad, but unfortunately, that's beyond my ken for setting up on Steam input. This is more than playable enough as is, though, so hopefully it helps other people who prefer playing on controller, even with games that are designed for mouse input. So let's fight some monsters and show how fluid this can actually be without really needing to explain much beyond what I've already shown. Thanks for watching.
What?